Welcome to the conference, everyone. Very glad you're here. I look forward to a very interesting day today, and please welcome Tom Rubin.
Thank you to Bill for that very kind introduction. It's really great to be here. Those of us, and there are many of us in the room who've been working on these issues for the past, related to copyright and technology for the past decade, we all know that and have greatly appreciated the leadership and skill and thought that Bill has put into these issues. So it's a real pleasure to be here at Bill's conference and be talking with all of you. And I'm really looking forward to the great panels that are lined up this afternoon, later this morning and this afternoon, with great topics and really terrific speakers. I realized as I was sitting there waiting to start, I did check the Twitter feed, and some of you are tweeting, and that's very cool. I realized that from now on, I really need to identify myself not only by my title on a slide like this, but by my Twitter tag, which is #TomRubin. So, those of you, if you like what I have to say, feel free to put my name on it. This conference focused on copyright and technology really makes it the perfect venue for a topic that I call copyright at the speed of light. My remarks today will concentrate on cloud computing and creative content because I believe that those issues are at the cutting edge of copyright and technology today. As you know, technology is advancing at a rapid pace, and as I'm sure we'll hear throughout the day, there remain substantial threats to the copyright system and content owners. Those issues, including infringement and enforcement, are critically important, and I'm sure they're going to be amply covered here today as they are elsewhere. What I'd like to do in my few minutes here this morning is follow the advice of Wayne Gretzky and focus on where the puck is going and not just where it is or where it's been. So I'd really like to concentrate today, less on those important and ongoing threats and focus instead on the tremendous opportunity that advances in technology and broadband penetration and network speed provide to content owners and creators. Cloud computing is for sure transforming the technology industry, and at Microsoft we know that the future of software is there in the cloud and not on silver disks anymore. And so too is the cloud transforming the entire ecosystem of creative content, which I'll describe during this talk by highlighting some examples. I'll discuss some of the ways that copyright policy and the copyright system can be optimized to stay ahead of this transformation in order to meet the needs of and to facilitate new opportunities for creators and the public alike. This is a time of remarkable change for content owners. For sure, the advent of the internet has turned their world upside down and required content owners to reinvent themselves. However, I really believe that the emerging era of cloud computing provides a healthy opportunity for renewal. By leveraging the cloud, content creators can reach new audiences, vastly increase scale, and harness newfound efficiencies. In short, I really think that cloud computing can be a catalyst leading to a newfound growth and vitality of creators and the content industries in the years ahead. So let me step back and put today's technological developments into a historical context. The way I see it, there have been three epochs of copyright. First, there was the analog era, then there was the digital era, and now there is the global network era, or cloud. In the analog era, the act of both reproducing and distributing works was laborious and costly. The digital era greatly simplified the act of reproduction of works. Physical copies were converted to binary ones and zeros that could be copied effortlessly. But the digital era saw little efficiency in terms of distribution, as CDs and DVDs remained dependent upon labor-intensive systems of things like inventory control and transportation networks and even retail establishments. Now, today's cloud era, as illustrated by this very cool map of global internet traffic, has ushered in huge advances in connectivity, in network speed, and in technology platforms, all of which have created a revolution in the distribution of works. The hallmark of the cloud era is instantaneous access, anytime and anywhere, to content. Content essentially becomes ubiquitous. As a consequence, we're in the midst of an almost unimaginable explosion in the creation of content. Let's try to quantify it by looking at some of the data passing through the cloud. There are now over 525 million websites taking up 336 exabytes of storage. That's 336 followed by 18 zeros. There are over 176 million blogs. People are sending, including people here, 140 million tweets per day. And that means over 51 billion tweets per year. And Facebook alone has over 100 billion photographs. Those numbers are simply staggering, and they're growing minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. The magnitude demonstrates that the cloud is defined not just by the speed at which it operates, but also by its ability to scale and handling these mind-boggling amounts of data. So the transformational nature of the cloud on content creators cannot be overstated. It's important to comprehend its full impact so that businesses can adapt and so that policy can foster the opportunity that it provides. There are many examples to illustrate how the cloud has impacted nearly every single aspect of the content business, from the production of creative content to delivery to consumption. I'll attempt to organize these examples by highlighting 5 distinct ways in which content has been transformed by the cloud. Cloud technology is making possible new forms of content, new creators of content, new marketing of content, new business models for content, and new experiences with content. Taken together, these developments highlight that creators are beginning to co-opt technology and not just view technology as a force that co-opts them. So let me take those trends one at a time, and when I do, please think about the following. There's a single unifying theme connecting all of these developments, and that's the consumer. The consumer, after all, is the audience. The consumer is the market for the product. And it's great that so many of these new developments are focused on expanding or improving consumers' experiences. Technology that does so is destined for success. Conversely, technology that ignores or impedes consumer engagement is doomed to fail. There was a column in the Financial Times the other day that has a headline that perhaps sums up the concept best, which is, innovation is all about the consumer. So let me turn to the 5 trends that I just outlined and just go into them in a little bit more detail. Let's start with the content itself. The cloud lets creators reinvent content to involve and immerse consumers directly. The online gaming industry leads this trend, leveraging the network that connects consumers around the world. Interactivity defines these new forms of entertainment. Consumers engage with and enjoy the product together wherever they may be. Now, as an example, earlier this month, the newest game in the Call of Duty franchise was released. It's called Modern Warfare 3. In the first 5 days, that game netted $775 million worldwide, which makes it the biggest entertainment launch of all time in any medium. And the key to the success of Modern Warfare 3 isn't just the great graphics, isn't just the compelling plot, compelling that is if you like shooting games, but it's the connection that it makes among gamers who can play with their friends across town or even strangers across the ocean. And boy, is that network popular. On the day that Modern Warfare 3 launched, Microsoft's Xbox Live online network logged 7 million gamer hours. And it also broke the record for the most concurrent players, with 3.3 million gamers around the world playing at the same time. And I can tell you firsthand from experience watching my 14-year-old son online that weekend, there's no doubt that the key feature of gaming today is the rich interactive experience made possible by cloud computing. The cloud is also transforming other forms of entertainment. Oh, here, this is the Xbox Live network that you can use to play games, as I say, and connect with people, your friends in your network, wherever they may be. As I say, the cloud is also transforming other forms of entertainment, like the sports network ESPN. The Xbox Live platform allows ESPN to deliver its sports programming interactively. offering customization and a much richer experience than a traditional cable TV channel. Look for much more investment by others in this space in the years ahead. Turning to new creators, the cloud puts a vast worldwide distribution network at creators' fingertips for practically no cost. When looked at this way, it's no surprise that we've seen a great explosion in the number of creators eager to use these tools, leading to a democratization of creativity. This graph shows the ever-increasing number of websites on the internet, from YouTube for video to Flickr for photos to WordPress for blogs and Amazon for self-published books, to the Windows Phone, Apple, and Android app stores for software developers. There's a huge number of new, more specialized content choices for consumers. And many of these new choices spring from creators who would have been stifled by the high distribution costs before the cloud. The cloud also transforms how producers market and promote their works because it powers the connectivity and social networks that consumers use to participate in how content today builds an audience and gets noticed. Facebook's like button, small as it is, and boy, it's very small, can be more powerful than $1 million ad budget. Twitter, too, allows individuals to cull and promote the content that they find most compelling. And the popular technology blog aggregator isoc-ny, as an example, leverages the network by ranking web posts by popularity, enhancing their discoverability by others. And Amazon has built a feature into its Kindle ebook platform that aggregates and displays the most popular passages that customers have highlighted in a book, helping others discover works and ideas they may have missed before the cloud. These changes, of course, also create new business opportunities for content. Where consumers of the past may have purchased a movie on a DVD or music on a CD, the cloud powers more affordable choices like rentals or subscriptions that provide streaming or other time-limited access. Cloud services can manage the content for the user and make ownership less important because access to it is all that's needed. The popularity of a wide variety of services, some of which were in Bill's slide a few minutes ago, makes this trend clear. Netflix is in the midst of a transition from renting DVDs by mail to streaming them in exchange for a monthly subscription fee. Hulu Plus provides streaming access to popular television shows, and Spotify recently launched its music streaming and subscription download service. Experiments are even in the works with books, as Amazon just launched a book lending service. All of these leverage the cloud to offer access to tens of thousands of titles rather than ownership of a few. Although such new offerings will no doubt upend and replace some of the old models like DVD sales, they create new models that can expand audience through more convenient ways to enjoy content. And more importantly, they encourage consumers to pay for content by adding convenience and value to the experience. Now, in order for all this to work, that content needs to be available to the consumer on the consumer's own terms, meaning anytime and anywhere. Consumers demand access when they want it and where they want it, so it's imperative that the enjoyment of content be seamless. By contrast, friction is a content killer. You see a commitment to use cloud services to eliminate that friction in the partnerships that creators and content services have established with consumer electronics and technology companies. These partnerships are developing large ecosystems of devices that support the playing of content. Here are just a few of the devices that stream Netflix movies, for example, from a wide variety of manufacturers and across many form factors. Microsoft, for example, has enabled these experiences across our products, so that you can start watching a movie in your home using Xbox Live. You can pause it, maybe sneak in a few minutes and watch the same movie at work in Internet Explorer. And then on the subway home, you can use your Windows Phone and finish watching that same movie using yet a third form factor. So such cloud services are built to be used anytime and anywhere. And so they demand seamless support across a wide variety of devices, as I mentioned. And here, I want to just give a few more examples, but there are so many these days. Here you can see, even in the marketing of these devices, how of these services, how the devices that they interoperate with are a key positioning point in the marketing of the services. And here we see marketing from Hulu, we see marketing from Pandora about its ecosystem of devices, and even Amazon eBooks emphasizes this as a key selling point. So this trend towards interoperability has prompted a move towards openness, and standards like HTML5 make services more efficient because they can write code that runs on multiple platforms. Now, at the same time, there's a countervailing trend that looms large in the eyes of the content industry. The cloud has introduced new parties that are involved in the distribution of content, a new form of online intermediary, as a WIPO official called it at a copyright and technology conference that I participated in Seoul just a few days ago. And a growing chorus of voices has expressed some concern about the power that those intermediaries wield at the expense of content owners. So this column in the Wall Street Journal, for example, highlights concerns about how some new intermediaries are disrupting media companies' relationships with their customers. The headline is, "Big Media Hands Over Its Locks and Keys to Facebook." And Apple, in particular, faced a storm of protest earlier this year when it announced that it would take a 30% cut of revenues earned not just from the sale of apps, but also for any subsequent purchases of content made in an app, including purchases of subscriptions directly from a content owner, even when Apple had no involvement whatsoever in the transaction or in the delivery of that content. Michael Lang is the CEO of Miramax Films, which owns one of the most high-quality film archives in the world. He spoke at the MITCOM conference in Cannes last month. And what he said there was that the biggest threat faced by content owners today isn't piracy. Let's listen to a short excerpt of his remarks where he explains what he thinks is the biggest threat to content owners today. And you'll see he was joined on stage. The other person sitting on stage with him is the Chief Content Officer of Netflix.
Apple is the strongest company in the music industry. And that because there was not enough competition, or still to this day not enough competition, that as an industry you really can't then influence packaging, merchandising, pricing, all the things that are critical, and that quite frankly are all as part of the kind of symbiotic relationship between content owners and distributors. You really want win-win situations where as distributors you make a lot of money and you feel happy about what content you have, and as a content owner you get fair value. And I think as an industry in the movie business, we have to be very cognizant of that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we did our deal with Netflix. That's one of the reasons we also did our deal with Hulu in the US, is that we want multiple players to emerge and to be successful. Because Ted's a great guy, I like him a lot, but if he's the only game in town 5 years from now, it may not be as good a negotiation as it was the first time. And I just feel like that's really important as an industry, that we try to allow multiple players in every market around the world.
So in other words, Lang says that the biggest threat faced by content owners today is the need for robust competition among service providers, pure and simple. This highlights a critical fact underlying the future of content in the cloud. Many commercial creators have become reliant on new gatekeepers to reach customers and hence for revenue. Without competition, Lang worries that these content owners won't receive fair value for their works. For creators migrating to the cloud, this issue merits close attention. Now, in my remaining few minutes, I want to return to the theme about how the cloud can enable fantastic user experiences with creative works, and how we all should be working to make that happen. And by all, I mean policymakers as well. So I'd like to close with some thoughts about how policy can help prepare a copyright for the cloud. I only have time for some high-level ideas here today, and there are a lot of details that do need to be worked out. But I hope to sketch a map of where copyright policy should go to optimize for the cloud. Of course, enforcement in the cloud will contribute to a great user experience because it will promote the growth of legitimate services and ensure that creators are paid for their works and have incentives to create more. That issue will be well covered here today as it is elsewhere. And so what I'd like to do is focus on two other aspects of copyright policy that should be a high priority on the agendas of policymakers around the world, because without them, the promise of the cloud won't be realized. First, to optimize for the cloud, we should look at what the networked world demands, not just for copyright, but for all forms of commerce and communication. And one thing that is clear is that the networked world demands speed and that it demands scale. People expect online transactions to take place instantaneously, and they likewise expect to be able to access information for those transactions just as quickly. And they expect the same speed and scale for copyright transactions, especially since the content itself can be digitized and transmitted and consumed immediately too. We see that in action today in the ease with which one can legitimately download a song, stream a movie, or buy a digital book. But the needs of the system don't end there. For instance, a blogger that wants to use a photograph expects that she should be able to find information about the photograph and pay for it in a matter of minutes. A video artist putting together a video who wants to use a music soundtrack expects to be able to find out the ability to use that music or license fee for that music or rights concerning that music in order to be able to use it in that video. A website creator who wants to register the copyright in her site expects that the registration process should be able to be completed online and quickly. So a copyright system optimized for the network world must be able to meet these very high speed and scale requirements when it comes to copyright metadata. In particular, who owns what rights and how those rights can be licensed. Lack of good metadata has helped create a massive growing problem of underutilized works, including orphan works, that could be brought back to life by new cloud technologies. Now, why aren't those works being used? Because they fall under the increasingly long term of copyright, and as protection has lengthened, the copyright system has not created a corresponding system for keeping track of copyright ownership. The main cause of the gap is that the international copyright system has banned formalities, like a registration requirement that could help provide such information. Now, there are very good reasons for that ban on formalities, but in today's world, it has produced many unintended consequences. No formalities results in incomplete and inadequate registration databases or other information sources that could help answer questions about who owns what, how to obtain a license, or whether a license is even needed. So a key part of the infrastructure for copyright in the cloud, which is databases of rights information, simply doesn't exist. A fully functioning copyright system for the 21st century needs to address this issue, and the cloud can help. We need to make it possible, for example, for a library to upload its collection of historic photographs onto a cloud service so that the public can access them for research, scholarship, and enjoyment. One way we can do this is by enacting orphan works legislation that would minimize liability in appropriate situations while also protecting those authors who reemerge after use. We can prepare the system for our cloud future by improving private and public registries of copyright information. Of course, lots of private registries and databases of ownership and licensing information do exist. Collective organizations use databases and online marketplaces for copyrighted works like Corbis and Getty use databases. And Creative Commons has spawned perhaps the greatest ownership and licensing databases of all at this point in time. There are also some government-run registries like the U.S. Copyright Office, but we need to expand and prioritize these efforts at creating copyright metadata, and we need to connect them to the cloud. That way, owners would have the ability to claim their works efficiently, and users would be able to access the information quickly and know better whether and how they can make works accessible. The key is that this all must be done at the speed of light, that is, at the speed and scale that cloud computing provides. The copyright information gap that exists and stymies progress is shown by an example from the Google Books litigation, which will be the subject of a panel later this morning. Now, buried in the proposed settlement was an effort to create a registry of books that could be used by e-book sellers and others. Now, Microsoft was on record as opposing the proposed settlement for a variety of reasons, but the idea of creating a registry for book information is a very good one. At Microsoft, we've invested substantial resources working with publishers and other content owners seeking to develop such databases. It's the kind of infrastructure that will be necessary to allow books to be bought, sold, and licensed in the cloud. But one of the key lessons of the rejection of the settlement is that the private sector may have an important role to play in developing such systems, but it is critical that the basic ground rules and requirements for such registries be shaped in public fora, such as Congress or WIPO. To get this right for the cloud, solutions must be shaped by the public interest rather than private party self-interest. Second, we should focus on how policy can improve the licensing of works accessible in the cloud. Copyright law, of course, is territorial, but the cloud is not. One of its primary benefits is the ability to reach around the globe and across geographic borders. The patchwork of different national laws that apply to content in the cloud creates many ambiguities that impede productive uses of works and slow down commerce. Licenses, however, can bridge those national copyright laws and provide a frictionless path for cloud access. This is just one small example. As I said, when I was in Korea just 10 days ago, went and accessed my Amazon account to download something to watch for the long plane ride home, and of course, though as a U.S. citizen and having an Amazon account based in the state of Washington, of course, you cannot download content when you travel internationally. Even more than that example, it's actually the digital music industry that highlights the most acute need for more efficient cross-border licenses. There, the failure to provide them has slowed down the adoption of exciting new consumer music services around the world. The result is that infringement fills the gap and harms the very creators themselves. Both creators and technologists need to work hard to remove obstacles to efficient licensing in online copyright markets so that the promise of the cloud can be realized for creators and consumers alike. So, returning to the depiction of the cloud, and in conclusion, I'd like to stress that we'd all benefit from increased focus on appropriate policy efforts in these three areas: appropriate enforcement, robust metadata, and streamlined licensing. They would provide a revitalized foundation for copyright that matches the amazing potential of the cloud, which is the lawful enjoyment of creative works at the speed of light. So thank you very much, and let's get on with the program.